lot of views after the fact. Once we post it on our YouTube channel. So
cool. Yeah, usually we have a little bit more by this time. I'm just like slightly worried, but of course we're gonna share it, so that's good. I'm not worried. I'm gonna get all the tire advice I need.
There you go.
Nutrition advice too. And Dan, Gelvio is totally new to me, so I'm super curious
Awesome
to hear about all that.
Yeah,
Are you based in the city?
I am, yeah. Been in the city personally for 6 years now, so not quite the decade mark like yourself, but and then the company Gelvio is based down in South San Francisco.
Cool.
Right.
You look incredibly familiar, but I don't know if we've actually ever met on the bike before.
I'm not sure either. I've done a couple of Rafa rides. I'm not sure if you do like Fat Cake, but mostly road rides.
Sure.
Hopefully more familiar with the Mountain Epic coming up.
Yeah. Crazy. So good that rides are coming back. I'm so excited just to be able to get out and ride.
Truly. It seems like you have a few on your calendar.
Do I have a few on my calendar?
Yeah, it seemed like you have Steamboats and a few other ones maybe.
Steamboat, literally, I signed up for last night just on a total whim. I've never raced 140 and I'm not in shape for it, but I don't know. I was in top shape. I had a great year right before the pandemic. And then, I was great shape last year, just firing on all cylinders, but just nothing was happening. And now I'm not feeling so great. So I don't know. I haven't really gearing up for cross. We'll see what happens. But
gotcha.
I haven't dialed in the calendar.
When is Steamboat?
That is like 1 month from now, I think. Almost like a month to the day, actually. I think it's like August 14th.
A little bit of time. I call that shotgun training. Just shot out and you just got to go hard and there's no rest. And yeah.
You're not doing the lead boat, the combo that happening this year?
Me?
They're pairing up. Yeah, they're pairing up I thought they were pairing up Leadville with Steamboat, like is it the same weekend even, or a week apart?
Oh,
anyway.
Really? Yeah. No, I have not planned that. I'm actually going straight from vacation in Michigan. I'll be there for like a week at a lake house, eating and drinking, and then we literally flying into Denver. And I think a day and a half later, I'll be doing it. So it'll be kind of it's just for fun. At this point, I'm not going to be locking horns with Ted King or anything at this point, I don't think. So anyways, we might as well start doing some intros, and if more people join, that'd be great. If not, like Tom said, he gets a lot of traffic with this on his YouTube, and then I share that link with all of our members. So yeah, quick intro for anybody joining now or on the recording. I'm Ryan, been with Rafa 7 years. I do marketing and the Rafa Cycling Club here. And yeah, just gearing up for a lot of events this year and rides. Like I mentioned earlier, Tom and I have been working together on a series of these talks and rides to kind of partner up to, we're a sponsor of the Dirt Fondo series. So this is kind of part of, you don't have to be signed up for it, but it's kind of the training and all these things are going to help you, on any of those challenges they have. And I think the next one, and Tom will talk, I'll kick this over to Tom in a second. He can tell us the latest on the Dirt Fondo series, but I'm here to just facilitate this conversation. Like I said, tires and nutrition, always questions I get from members all the time, customers all the time, something where everybody's always trying to dial in, no matter what kind of ride you're doing. It encompasses it all. You always got to know how to ride on the bike eat on the bike and what you need to eat. And then tires, the game seems to always be changing, and really excited to have WTB, who makes a lot of really great tire options that I use and a lot of my friends use. So I'm really curious to hear what both of you have to say. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tom, and he can talk a little bit about MCBC and the latest and greatest. And yeah, Tom is the off-road and events director at Marin County Bicycle Coalition.
Yeah, hey everybody, and definitely want to thank Clayton and Dan for coming on today and talking a little bit about tires and nutrition. Yeah, I'm the event director for the Dirt Fondo, which used to be a one-day ride. And then with COVID last year, we pivoted and did a do-it-yourself route, and it was very popular. So this year, we were not 100% sure we'd be able to do our in-person. We just actually today, I've got all the agencies have basically said, yep, the August 14th in-person event will happen. But leading up to that, we've been dropping monthly routes for people to do on their own, and it's been very fun. Each route kind of highlights a different area in the county, and it mixes up fire road, new trails, a little pavement here and there. So yeah, and this month, July is the last. It starts this weekend. We call it the Mount Vision Wild, where we do it's a spoke and hub ride out in the Point Reyes National Seashore, where we do have a lot of great trails and gravel, and you do have to do some pavement to get between places. But that starts at Bear Valley, and that one's the Dirt Fondo started as a mountain bike event, but we've always had people on cross bikes and single speeds, and then as gravel emerged, that people ride those bikes as well. But it is the original route was created with mountain bikes in mind. This route that we're dropping Saturday is a very kind of it's probably the most gravel friendly route that we have. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to, and we have a lot of great sponsors, including WTB and Dan with Gelvio, and it just makes sense, and Rafa with a nice new off-road apparel, a mountain biking apparel. So it's great to have these talks, bring in some of our supporters to talk about the things that'll help you prepare for these rides.
Thanks for having us. Stoked.
So yeah, where do we want to start? Nutrition or tires?
Who gets to go first?
No, go ahead.
I vote for tires.
Vote for tires.
Hey.
All right.
You got it. All right. Well, I'm Clayton Wangbichler. I'm the product marketing manager for WTB. I see product ideation, or product all the way from like product ideation, people pitching an idea within the company, or athletes pitching an idea, or even consumers considering it, all the way through development until launch day. So I also work on the marketing side and, organize the launches, and I even write the press releases. So I started on at WTB 5 years ago as the guy writing press releases and doing PR, and now I've kind of become the jack of all trades there. And so, yeah, a lot of my days are spent, looking at 3D printed tires and all kinds of other ones that I realize I can't show. But yeah, so I love talking tires. I think that it sounds like tire choice is the big thing that people want to discuss here. Maybe more so than tire pressures and stuff or setups. So it sounds like that these rides that are being done are mountain bike focused, but willing to be able to be ridden on a gravel bike, or able to be ridden on a gravel bike. And so sounds like a fast rolling tire obviously would be better off. I rode a 6K day on last Saturday. So it looks similar to the routes that you guys have planned. And I rode the Trail Boss on the rear, Vigilante on the front. Granted, that was on a fully mountain Bellingham steep mountain bike ride. So if I was on a route that could maybe get away with a little bit more, and I wanted more efficiency, or wanted it to be a little bit easier, I can make that easier by either doing Trail Boss front and rear, which a lot of people do. We really pitch the Trail Boss as a rear focused tire, but plenty of people run it on the front. I mean, it's a 2.4 with plenty of volume. It's got good cornering knobs, so you can run that front and rear. But I would still suggest the Vigilante on the front, because with minimal rolling resistance you get considerably more cornering confidence and traction. So that's what I would suggest if you're looking for like the aggressive trail. For people who do want the even more efficient, you could go the line of the Ranger, which is available in a 2.25 and a 2.4 width. And so that has short knobs, 4 millimeters or just under 4 millimeters, if I'm being precise. So short knob height that rolls fast. So there's an option there. And then on the gravel side of things, I think that's where there's more variance in our tires, because mountain tires, you look at them and you go, that's a big knobby tire. Like, you know, that's this. Gravel tires are more nuanced. They're more, you know, a tire is noticeably more efficient or less efficient or have better cornering traction than another tire in the line. So for a ride that, like I'm seeing, I checked out the ride with GPS that you sent over, we can start at the whole spectrum. And so I have a lot of these tires. So this is the byway here, and you can see, not very good light, but that's got like this smooth center line. So that's going to be the most fast rolling tire that I would suggest for a gravel ride. We make exposure tires that are completely slick, but I wouldn't really suggest those. And I only suggest this if you're a really confident rider on the descents, because this is going to loosen up on you quite a bit, which is why the most common tire that probably I would suggest, and we were talking about this right before this recording started, is right here, the Rattler. So this Rattler right here is available in a 37 and a 45. And it's a fast rolling tire, short knob height, but bigger, more substantial side knobs. It's actually modeled after a mountain bike tire named after Nathan Riddle. And that tire was designed to be a very fast rolling tire in the straightaways when you're going mock speed, like Nathan Riddle always is up in Ashland, but have cornering traction when you needed it. You could lean it over and get plenty of traction. And so that's what the Rattler does, and it translated pretty well over to gravel. So this is like, if I didn't know anything about the rider or anything about where they ride or their skill level, which happens with me often, actually, because I work in PR and I'm working with media and sending tires out all the time, I always send this tire. If I don't know what the person's going to be riding, I send this tire. If I think they may be living in a place where they could use something better or an event that could benefit more from another tire, I'll maybe send another one, but this one always goes in the box. And it's available in two widths, a 37 and a 45. And that kind of just comes down to preference. You were talking about how you're going to be riding Steamboat, and that's going to be in a race, an event where you're worried about efficiency. So 37 all day. Me, I don't race. I ride my gravel bike quite a bit, but when I do, it's just going out to get bigger miles in or train or something like that. And so I'm almost always riding the 45 because I'm just not as focused on speed, and I want the traction and confidence on the descent. That probably also has to do with that fact that I'm primarily a mountain biker first and foremost, and I guess you could say a fairly aggressive mountain biker. So I want more volume and I want to be able to get loose and squirrely on descents. So there's that. But the spectrum doesn't end there. This tire actually is available with slightly taller knobs in a tire called the Rattler. And it's named that because it's simply a radder version of the Rattler. So slightly taller knobs all around, but noticeably taller knobs on the side knobs. And these, I explain to people, are if you're looking for a tire that you essentially want to ride your gravel bike as a mountain bike. So if you're going on these rides and you don't mind you're not looking to have maximum efficiency and you're just trying to go out and have fun, but maybe like are more focused on the descents, or you want to feel more confident on the trails or do some detours that even put you further out on the trails, this is the tire. I live right next to Galbraith Trail System here in Bellingham, and we go in the winter oftentimes and just ride the trails on our mountain bikes. I mean, on our gravel bikes, the mountain bike trails. And I always bring this tire. And due to the fact that it's got the same Rattler tread pattern with these really tight knobs, it still rolls really fast. Like, it's funny, even though this is our more aggressive Rattler tire, I've taken this last year, this tire went on 120-mile ride, 100, and it can still go the distance as long as your legs are willing to do it. So yeah, I think I'm just rambling on right now, and I'm realizing that oftentimes what's better is if you guys have specific questions about tires and tire selection, then that could even help as well. Otherwise, I just run through a whole tire line.
I had a quick comment. So you could probably, similar as people do with mountain bikes, you could probably run, you know, if you were like, I don't know, like you're in between the efficiency and the like traction, you could run maybe the Rattler on the front and then the Riddler on the back.
Totally. That was actually my setup in the spring. We do a Rattler 44. The Rattler is available in a 40 and a 44. So I was doing the Rattler 44 on the front and the Riddler 45 on the rear. And it's like, I guess that's the opposite of mullet. It's party in the front, business in the back. But yeah, so there's also that option. Or, you know, Resolute, you could run Resolute, which is like an all-weather tire. It's more focused for like evacuating mud and muck pretty well. It's not as good of a tire, I'd say, for Marin. We use this tire quite a bit up where I live, but where you guys are, I don't know if it would be as good of a tire suggestion. The other thing you could do is, if you don't want to go with the Riddler at all, I mean, we have the Venture, which is like this fast rolling tire that delivers traction through having a lot of small working edges rather than having big knobs that bite. So that's the other way. You know, you got to consider that there's numerous ways to gain traction and confidence on a tire. And for some tires, that's big knobs. For some tires, it's tall knobs. For other tires, it's having smaller ridges like this, or, you know, smoother tires that even conform to the trail better even. So like a Riddler here will not a whole lot more, but it'll kind of conform to the trail and grapple a little bit more. The actual casing itself will. So that's how this tire gets traction, which is different from the knobs of these tires kind of kicking in. So yeah, there's numerous ways to skin a cat. And yeah, and mountain bike tire and gravel tire selection is no different. And it just comes down to conditions and such. But the general rule is that you could put a Riddler on your bike and not take it off until it was just beat and bald, and you would be stoked almost in any situation. So that's kind of what I would suggest looking at these routes. That's what I would suggest.
I had a question. I actually roll the Resolute in Marin and have been pretty happy with it on the dirt. But it does. I had the version before you guys did the tougher side casing. So I'm just curious. I'm thinking of upgrading to the better side wall to reduce punctures. But is that gonna is the ride gonna be not the same? It's a stiffer tire, or is there trade-offs? Or
no, totally great question. So we've had our tires without any sort of puncture protection, just single ply. They're 60 TPI tires for years. This is if you've ridden WTB tires that came on your bike or that you likely bought at a store. That's what they've been for years. But we recently added more puncture protection, actually from people racing Dirty Kansas and being like, we don't want super heavy tires, but heck, we'll take an additional 50, 60 grams or 40 grams, if it means that we're not going to flat. So that is when we came up with SG2, which is our new puncture protection level. None of these tires have it, but it doesn't matter because you can't see inside a tire. But we originally tested it. We sent it off to the factories and had them send it back with puncture protection in our existing 60 TPI tires. And the issue that we had, we ran them, we didn't get a single flat in testing. And I know everyone's always going to say that, but we truly didn't. I'm the one who runs the testing, not a single flat. And it was amazing. The issue was they rode like blocks of wood. Like they just felt wooden. And so the ride quality wasn't there. It felt like we were riding a cheap tire. So that's when we went back to them and said, hey, well, what about 120 TPI? And so we started looking into 120 TPI. We were hesitant because we've used it in the past, but with single ply without any sort of puncture protection layer, you would get seepage in the sidewall. They just weren't strong enough. Sure, for road or adventure road kind of tires, they're fine, but for gravel, it just wasn't enough. But so instead we thought, okay, well, let's try it out with this SG2 puncture protection. And so that's what these new tires are. When you get an SG2 puncture protection tire, it has 120 TPI casings with the SG2 puncture protection in order to balance it out and create a tire that's still lively and doesn't feel dead. And the other reason we did that is because when we had the 60 TPI casing tires with the SG2 puncture protection, they just got really heavy. We were looking at tires that were 100 grams heavier, and it's a puncture protected tire, so it's expected to be a little bit heavier, but not that much heavier. So on average, this new SG2 puncture protection only adds between 10 to 40 grams to the tire, depending on the model of the tire. Bigger tires, obviously, like the Venture 50, are more on like the 40 or maybe even 45 gram increase, whereas smaller tires like the Rattler 37 are about a 20 gram increase. So the 120 TPI casing there was a saving grace in two ways: weight and ride, liveliness and comfort, suppleness, as everyone wants to say.
Right. Well, should we go to questions, or should we jump over and get focused on nutrition and maybe open up questions at the end? What do you suggest, Ryan?
Since we don't have a ton of people here, yeah, I think we could quickly ask if anybody has any tire questions, and we'll just keep it to a couple of minutes here just to make sure Dan gets his time as well.
Yeah, cool.
Anybody have any specific tire questions right now? Maybe not.
I'm in the chat there.
Benjamin does.
Oh, I think he's saying he's gonna go.
Oh.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your wisdom. I got to run to another meeting. That's this crazy life we live. But I hope to run into many of you on the trails. And I used to live up in the Seattle area, so I appreciate all the mud. And now I'm down here with perfect weather.
Thank you for joining, and be sure I'll be sharing the link on our Rafa SF Facebook, and you can go to MCBC's YouTube page to find it, and we'll have it up in the next day or two.
Awesome. I look forward to connecting with all of you. Have a great day and remain car free.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Clayton, I just have a quick question on the just kind of a general tire question. The Rattler you talk of, it's kind of got that flat top like a little bit, right? It's not as rounded as like, I don't know, maybe the Resolute's a little bit rounder. Like, what's the thought process on that? Is it just grabbing more bite with that edge, that like sort of flat top edge?
Totally. I mean, the more you create that, the more you have. It's like we call it the traction when you want it, but the efficiency when you want it, but the traction when you need it. So it's like, it gives you that flat sort of smoother surface and allows for shorter knobs down in the center line of the tread that roll faster and quicker. And oftentimes it's not normally just shorter, but often definitely always tighter as well, but makes it so that when you lean it over and you're going to be truly contacting those knobs, that they're going to bite. They're always kind of contacting. It's funny, we look at tires like this and it's like, oh, it's round, you're going to be sitting here, but your tire is compressed. So this whole tread pattern, or almost all of it's going to be touching the ground when you're on your bike, no matter if you're cornering or going flat. But it won't have the weight there. It won't be dragging as much. It won't be biting in until you really push it in. And then that's when the Rattler does that. And it's noticeable. I mean, I love this Resolute. Tom, you said you ride it a lot. I ride it as well. Up where I live, we get a lot of moisture, and it does shed really well. But there is a noticeable difference from this when it comes to cornering traction compared to a Rattler, which is funny because you look at a Rattler and it looks like just a faster tire, like it's not going to give you as much traction or confidence. But personally, I actually feel like the Rattler 45 gives me more cornering traction than this Resolute, which is interesting.
I'll have to try it out.
Yeah.
So in general, you're saying so why would somebody why would you build a more rounder tire? Is it maybe for a more confident rider, or somebody who wants something to like corner a little bit? I noticed those flat top ones, they pull maybe a little bit. It's more noticeable on the pavement.
Yeah.
If you're like, descending down some road, it can take some getting used to depending on what pressure you're running it at. But like, so I guess is there an advantage to having more,
Totally.
the Nano is more rounded too, I guess, right? Like that's a pretty round tire.
Predictability and consistency while you're cornering. So when you're on a rounder tire, a rounder profile, you're cornering and it's not changing. That arc's there and it's there. And it's not this moment of, like I said, with the Rattler, where it's like kind of loose, and then, whoa, I have traction. It's just more consistent and smooth. And the other thing is efficiency. So a rounder tire will have those outer knobs dragging less. So it's just creating more efficiency. Like if you take, the Rattler is a really fast rolling tire and has these substantial outer knobs. But if it was just these small knobs, tight knobs throughout the entire case or entire tread, even out to the edge, this would be a substantially faster tire. It wouldn't have as much cornering confidence, but it would be a faster tire. So yeah, I'd say predictability and efficiency. But luckily, again, like I said, with the Rattler, it's such an efficient tire that you're not really worried about it because of the confidence it gains you. It may not be as fast, but the being able to corner faster, descend faster, all of that makes up for it. And not just speed, but also confidence and comfort, especially over 140-mile ride like you're going to have soon. Because that's the other factor that people don't factor in, is like when you're at the end of a 140-mile ride or longer, or the end of DK or something like that, like it's not just your legs that are tired. It's your body, it's your shoulders, it's how well you can hold on to your bike, how mentally you're there, all of that. So yeah, a lot of factors.
Definitely. Enlightening, and the search for the perfect tire is a never-ending search, and
Totally.
You can get on a kick for a while and then try something new. I like that WTB has a lot of different options to kind of mix it up. Even just talking to you today, I'm already starting to think about like some fun options. I wish I could clear 45s because that would open up my world a little bit more. But
want to give a plug to your saddles too. They keep me comfortable on those long rides.
Got
the Silverado and carbon rails. Nice comfort saddle.
Totally. I finally, maybe TMI, this isn't TMI. I just had a friend finally convince me a few months ago to go chamois free. So I'm chamois free over the last few months. And I've ridden WTB saddles since before I worked for WTB. So, I rode the Volt and the Silverado for years. So it's not just because I work for them. But I didn't realize how comfortable our saddles were until I went chamois free this last few months. And my buddies and I all share each other's bikes, and occasionally I'll get on somebody else's bike and I'm like, oh, I can't even ride this other saddle. Like, so yeah, personal little experience, but yeah, I'm glad you like them as much as I do.
Cool. Well, thank you. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I was just going to say that's probably a good segue. The long rides. We've talked about saddles and tires to keep you comfortable, but you need energy and you want to avoid cramping. What else, Ryan? What else do you focus on nutrition-wise when you're preparing for a ride?
What do I focus on?
Yeah.
Oh, it all depends. It depends on the level of intensity of the ride and all that stuff. I like to eat real food whenever possible. So I try to limit the goos and gels, but yeah, it kind of, how dialed I am depends on the intensity of the race or ride or whatever. I'm, again, just like with tires, I am always looking for, the newest, not the newest thing, but just, trying something new. Definitely interested in, mixing it up. I think that's kind of the biggest thing when people are training. I see that a lot. People coming out for the rides, they eat the same thing or all they know is gels, and it's kind of monotonous and may not even be the best fuel for your body, but like, it's also not enjoyable. And, if you're just going out and doing a zone 2 ride for, a little training ride for like 3 or 4 hours, like you don't need to be jamming gels down. But yeah, I'm not a nutritionist, so it's kind of hard to convey all that. So hopefully Dan can drop a little bit of knowledge and give us some options for the endurance rides.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Ryan. Pumped to be facilitating, and Tom, excited to be a sponsor for the Dirt Fondo series, and especially in person in August. Thrilled to be out there fueling all the riders in person. Unfortunately, I have no samples to show off somewhere to Clayton, and I won't be riding chamois free anytime soon either. Not nearly as brave as you. But yeah, I mean, as Ryan and Tom mentioned, my name's Dan. I'm the founder of Gelvio, and yeah, we're your online destination for snacks and drinks. We're very new, so we recently launched in April of this year, and we're based here in San Francisco. And personally, I'm a huge snacker, and I mean, I also got really tired of the stale old options. I mean, I was forcing down Cliff bars and Kind bars and goo gels, all a bunch of great products, but you just kind of have that boredom set in, and then you find yourself actually not fueling on the ride because you'd rather have an empty stomach than the same thing over and over again. And that was kind of the catalyst for starting Gelvio, to make sure we could help people easily discover and order great products, whether they're working or riding. And that might be a 20-mile ride during the week in the morning, or a 200-mile ride that you've been training for 6 months. I mean, our assortment has roughly 200 or so products. We have different items for every occasion. And I mean, I know we're kind of the new kid on the block here. So just quickly on Gelvio, as mentioned, really expansive kind of product category and product list, but super selective. I think a lot of us kind of get that fatigue when we go to an Amazon or into a grocery store. We're like, all right, what do I actually buy here? There's a lot. So that's where we really try to differentiate and make it easy for you. I mean, really thinking through the products that have real food ingredients, that check the box for, you know, organic and non-GMO, and also make your days and rides better. I mean, more energized, you're feeling stronger, and that comes from the right ingredients and the right mix of, you know, calories and carbs and protein and fiber, and really packaging it so it's understandable. None of us have a ton of time to go through all of this on a daily basis and read the labels. So we try to take some of the work off your plate. And then as it relates to kind of the product discovery, we work with a lot of smaller brands to really bring the best products forth. And that includes smaller brands like a Huma gel or a Spring Energy gel, where it's, you know, it's rice-based and banana-based and plum puree based, as opposed to a lot of the synthetic stuff you're going to see at the typical item, maybe on a shelf at a macro store. And typically these small brands just care. I mean, it's, you know, 1 to 10, 20 employees, and they exist for a reason. So we try to bring them together and showcase. And the goal there is to, you know, give you better fuel on the saddle. So you got the variety and the right products, and variety is just super key. So we let you pick up just individual items and try what works for you. Race day is not the right time to try something you never put in your system before. Just to understand, hey, this does work or it doesn't, whether that's a bar, a gel, or a chew. I mean, there's a litany of options. So we're trying to, you know, provide easy access and trial to those different items. And then as it relates to endurance riding and endurance fuel specifically, I mean, at a very basic level, the goal is to kind of minimize dehydration and carbohydrate depletion. I mean, that's really what you're trying to do over the course of this long ride. And in particular for the Mount Tam Epic, I mean, it's going to be a grind out there, and there'll be some great aid stations. It's important to know what to do, you know, before, the morning before, the night before, then also during and after, so you can be at your best and make sure your muscles are working properly. And what you really don't want to do is, you know, have this great event on the calendar for a while and then deal with stomach distress because there's something in it that's just not jiving with different products, or you're dehydrated. So, I mean, as it relates to food, I mean, I always kind of suggest erring on the side of staying a little more hungry. I think overeating is really hard to recover from, which is, you know, easy to do with really generous aid stations and refueling stations. And I mean, in the event you find yourself dealing with the grumblies, I mean, it takes about, you know, 10 minutes to get roughly 20 to 25 grams of carbs back in you. That's half a bar or a gel just to get yourself level set. But there's no coming back if you just got bloated on the saddle. I mean, you're not going to get the output you want. And unfortunately, I've been there more times than I'd like to admit. And the boredom and kind of, you know, is really the biggest challenge. As mentioned, it's making sure that you really want to consume what's in your pocket and in kind of your saddlebag. And there are a lot of options there. There's bars, gels, and chews. And for us, I mean, it's really understanding, like, what is the different texture? What's the consistency? What are the flavors? And not really taxing your system too much. I mean, it's difficult if it's a long grind like this will be, and having bars the entire time could just put too much stress on your system. So it's good to understand, hey, let's mix in a gel and really think about every 30 or so minutes consuming that, and also layering on the right amount of fluid and hydration. And it can be water, or it could be just electrolyte, or you could be looking at also adding carbs to your liquid, which allows you to offset some of the stuff you need to consume from actually chewing. And that's one of the areas I'm really a big fan of, and Tailwind does an amazing job of layering on a good balance of sugar and carbs in their mix there. And as mentioned, I think the sports dietitian world is really focused on the real food nutrition, as are we here. I think minimally engineered products really just help you perform better. And that's regardless of whatever the duration is, whether it's 20 miles or 100 miles. That's one thing to really consider, as is the intensity. What is what's your outage, or your power outage going to be? What's are you expecting from yourself? And then also the sweat rate too. Is it a really hot or humid day? And are you someone who just sweats a ton? That could be the case as well. And just knowing who you are, but you don't need necessarily get an expensive sweat test. It's just taking care of yourself and understanding how you respond to different products and what your unique use cases are. And then in general, I think at a very simple level, carbohydrates are really just sugars and starches we're putting in our body. And that's going to just help us store the glycogen, which, in our muscles and liver. And that's what we really want to do leading up to the race. I think the 1 to 2 days prior is a great opportunity to really store up, to give yourself the head start and not start at a point of depletion. So there it's having simple carbs, definitely the night before, and if you can, the day before that as well, where it's white rice, it's white pasta, it's maybe reducing the high protein, high fat foods and implementing more of the carbs, and not overeating. It's definitely not what we're preaching here, but making sure that balance is skewed a little bit more towards the carbs. And then also just the morning of doing the same thing, whether it's some of the items I like to kind of power up with would be oatmeal, or waffles are a great option too, where you can just get really simple carbs and not overload your system. And they're fairly bland, but there's syrup and fruit you can throw on there as well. And if you're in a rush, you can obviously just start with your carb and calorie drinks or your bars. I know a lot of these events start early in the morning, so it's hard to get up 2 hours before and really fuel up, but that's a good opportunity to do so, to really make sure you're performing on race day. And then also staying hydrated. I think that's the real difficult thing, to take a sip of water every 15 minutes. And it's just a real simple thing. And I'm not saying set an alarm, but it's just an easy way to avoid getting to that 60-90 minute mark and slamming half or 3/4 of your water bottle and it's getting bloated once again, because at that point you're already dehydrated. And once that's the case, there's obviously the clear indications of like a dry mouth, and you're not peeing, but it's also a lot of other stuff there where you're not performing at your best. So certainly want to avoid that at all costs. And then during the very basic rule of thumb is really 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour, and it'll depend on, as mentioned, kind of the duration and the intensity and your body type and gender. But for those who want to get really scientific and dive deep into it, this is not the time frame for it, but there's a lot you can really jump into, and depending on your level of interest. But that's the basis for that 30 to 60 time frame. And that really encompasses one gel or one energy bar, or roughly 4 to 5 chews. And you can do those. It's nice to kind of have variation across the course of the race. And then on the electrolyte side of things, as mentioned, equally as important. And we have a number of great products there, but it's making sure you're replenishing the potassium, magnesium, and sodium primarily, and not waiting till later in the ride to start doing so, but implement that earlier on, so you're being proactive. And I think all that will help a ton to perform and stay feeling good on the saddle, and even seeing yourself do better than expected and deal with the heat, especially with these summer rides. And then after the fact, it's great to replenish with the carbohydrate rich meal within an hour or so, and get the protein you need. The suggested amount there is about 25 grams. And of course, we all appreciate the immediate post ride beer. That's a great place to start for your recovery. So I always recommend that. And as I think through some of our top selling products and my personal favorites, I think huge fan of Honey Stinger. I think they just have incredible real food options. which obviously incorporate honey, and their products are organic, non-GMO, and the waffles just taste great. And you get the energy and the carbs you need, and their chews are also outstanding, and the pack is good for 2 servings. So that's one of our best products. And then Spring Energy Gels, I mean, they're a brand that's been around for a while, who certainly has historically targeted more of the trail running community, but their products are amazing for these long rides as well. And they're the product I mentioned earlier that's, as opposed to using more synthetic products and being more syrupy like most gels, they're instead rice-based and banana and plum, and a lot of the sugar there comes from fruit juices, and it just really alleviates a lot of this GI distress that we're seeing, and personally we've all experienced at one point or another. And then on the hydration front, I think there's, I mean, a whole host of options, but for us, it's really new, and I think their electrolyte mixes are really on point, whether it's the tablet which dissolves or it's the instant mix. I mean, there you're getting the combination of all the major minerals and electrolytes, and also the extra boost from a B12 and a vitamin C, which it goes a long way. And post rides, I think they're on the kind of the protein carb option. Tailwind Nutrition has a great single serve protein mix, which has roughly 10 grams of plant-based or pea-based protein. So it's not whey-based, which is unique. Most of these products are. And then also just a ton of sodium, almost 500 milligrams to help you get recovered on that front. So that's kind of the rundown on how we're thinking about making sure it's, you're being proactive before the event, during the event, and then even quickly after. Just small things within that 60-minute window can go a long way. That's kind of the high level for us, and we'll certainly be there in person to hand out some of our great products for folks crushing it on the trails.
So if you're going to do this event, I mean, you kind of covered it already, some of your favorite stuff, but like, what would you be taking with you? Would you be just doing a mix of the honey stinger gels and like the waffles, or? Yeah,
the variation is totally key. So it'd be a combination of the waffles and making sure I have one of these items per hour after that first 60-minute window. So it's a couple of the different waffles, 2 packets of the chews, and then two Spring Energy Gels as well. And I'd always prefer to carry an extra 1 or 2 with me and just be sure, as opposed to finding myself in a bonking situation or maybe kind of mid-ride, I'm not finding exactly what I want to at the aid stations. That's what I'd think. And then obviously replenishing with the water throughout the ride.
Do you have any, as we're talking, I'm just browsing your very beautiful website. Are there any, you don't really talk a lot about caffeine. Do you have a lot of caffeine products on your site? Like, some gels have, different amounts of caffeine in them, things like that. Some chews do as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And for riders are accustomed to caffeine products, the nice boost. Wouldn't recommend trying it on race day, but Morton actually has a great gel, which is actually used very, very frequently now on the Tour de France. And it's caffeinated and has some new kind of gel technology as opposed to the syrup, but that's an outstanding product. And I think whether it's those products or like a Seattle Gummy Co., they have a caffeinated chew there as well, which just kind of gives you that kick, which is nice, whether it's 100 or 200 milligrams. It's good to get you through some of those bumps.
What's interesting with the Morton is it's unflavored, correct?
It is, yeah. It's like a slightly sweet Jello once it comes out. It's shocking at first, but
okay.
I've certainly grown to like it. Have you tried that one?
I have not. I've been seeing that. I was looking at your site and I've been seeing I know through Rafa, we've been trying them. There's some sort of association, but I haven't tried it myself just yet. But the branding is nice. It's very simple. Yeah,
you'll have to get you a Gelvio fuel pack and include some Morton in there so you can try the unflavored.
Nice. Is there any like, you mentioned some of your favorite products. Was there any, I don't know, is there any game changer products in the last year or so? Or, waffles and gels are fairly standard. Those have been around for quite a while. Is there anything that you've noticed, what, I don't know, this could be nutrition, this could be like post-ride, anything like that? Anything you've seen that just either has changed your, the way you train, or maybe people you know of just through testimonials?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think a lot of, riders and people in general are certainly chasing these smaller competitive advantages or, new products to see what's might help give them that boost. But I think it really comes back to that real food focus. And that's certainly our approach with both our products, and whether it's, everyday consumption during the workday when your chamois off and you're actually doing work, but you're still staying fueled up, or when you are in the saddle. I think there's a lot of benefits from the real food approach as opposed to a lot of the synthetic kind of sports engineered products. That's not to say Morton isn't beneficial. I think that's one of the few, I think they have 4 or 5 ingredients max where you do get the benefit, but the hardcore sports nutrition and supplements, that's certainly not an area where we're trying to play. Big believer in the real food and finding ways to make that work for you.
I'm all on board with that. I also saw on your site, the gummies that I steal from my kid are also for sale on your site. So now I know that I'm fueling up the right way by stealing this.
Energy at all costs.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
I actually do, but if somebody else is one of the, I'll just ask it. So I'm the polar opposite in the sense that I'm horrible with nutrition. I did a ride on Saturday, 6,000 feet, and I barely drank 1 bottle of water. I rode today and I haven't had water since yesterday. So not a sip. And so I'm curious, do you have any tips on not just the actual supplement itself, but remembering to ride? Because I know there's the time thing is thrown out there, but I'm not thinking about time when I'm out riding my bike. I'm just out having fun. So I don't know, if I am going to forget something the next day that I know I need to bring somewhere, I put it next to my truck keys, do you have any sort of tips like that to where I can remember to drink water, the basic essential thing for life?
You're like a camel. I mean, going multiple days without drinking, you are certainly an anomaly, especially riding that much elevation. I mean, simple things I've seen. I think starting with just products you really enjoy consuming. I mean, if it's in your water bottle and you're like, hey, this actually tastes pretty good. It's a good way to incentivize yourself. Same with chews and gels. And I would say if you were to start, hydrating more frequently or eating and consuming carbs more frequently while riding, you'd likely see yourself improving and feeling better on the saddle. So hopefully that would motivate yourself as well to kind of check in and do so. And I've seen people just truly set alarms every 15 minutes. I mean, depending on what your kind of bike tech setup is, but having something just remind you every 15 minutes to just take a sip. And I mean, when you stop, knowing that you're going to have half a bar, half a gel, and just kind of force training yourself as if you're going through puppy class and hey, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And then eventually it'll become kind of ingrained into your riding routine. And, if you don't see the benefits, then you can revert back to what the previous approach was. But I think it would help a ton.
Oh, no, I definitely feel it. I bonk all the time. So
Yeah.
I definitely would benefit from that. And I like your idea of, I have a sweet tooth. So maybe I've never tried any sort of electrolyte stuff, or I see the watermelon electrolyte tabs and stuff. And maybe having it something just sweeter can incentivize to just do it because it's more enjoyable and pleasant. I'm never drawn to be I want to drink water. Maybe if I'm I want a watermelon popsicle that I can drink, then it would work. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Great question.
And how about speaking of bonking, what do you have any advice or products for when you do bonk but you still got a half hour to an hour to get through? And is there to stop and rest, or is there some fuel that's easy to digest and gives you the little boost of energy to make it through the end of the ride? Any tips there?
Yeah, of course. We've all been there multiple times. I think if you can allow yourself 5 to 10 minutes just to take a break, get off the saddle, and then consume something really easy to digest, I'd recommend not. I mean, consuming a bar, something you're chewing and putting more stress on your GI. So it's it's a gel. I mean, ideally, if you have one with you, and if not, then shoes. But those would be the two best options to start. And then if you do have a fluid mix, which is high in carbohydrate, that would be probably even the best option there, just to easily get that absorbed and digested into your system, and then ramp it back up. And that will, make a difference within 15 to 20 minutes of it being in your system. And especially if it's a long day, it's worth kind of that investment just to hit reset, and make the rest of the miles more enjoyable.
I actually have another question kind of based off of that too. So kind of same question, but a little bit different. So I told you I bonk all the time. It's one of my favorite pastimes. Sometimes it's when there's like 5,000 or 6,000 feet left in the ride. And I'm like hours out, and I'm, 2/3 of the way through the ride. And I'm like, oh no, this is not going to end well. And I'm looking around at all my friends and they're all doing fine. Like gas station along the way, like just eating a big bean and cheese burrito. Like, is that going to I'm sure instantly it's maybe not going to feel good, but will that help me and help restore me, just putting like a big actual meal in me for the long term,
Yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing, to be candid. And then we'll certainly caveat this, and everyone is different, and that truly might work for some people. But by and large, I mean, if you have that much of a ride left, I would certainly, get some food that you can chew on and consume, and maybe it's a bar, or food in general, which is low in fiber, low in protein, low in fats, and really just get the carbs back. I mean, you need calories. Like your glycogen stores are super depleted, and if you're bonking at that point, you probably went into the ride dehydrated as well. And if that's the case, you got a couple of compounding issues. And then also just drink a ton too, and make sure you're doing both of those to kind of level set. And I mean, if you're at a gas station, you got no Gelvio snacks with you. I'm sure there's Cliff bars that aren't overly appetizing, but it's certainly better than a big green burrito, which the guys behind you might not appreciate.
That's true too. Nice, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said about kind of keeping it interesting and fresh. I think, for a long time, Cliff bars is what I had in my pocket, and they that gets boring. And so, we can mix it up with a waffle and the bites and the I do the what's that, the peanut butter sometimes.
Oh yeah.
It's so good tips.
Yeah, I like to not overthink it. I mean, there's one brand, it's called Split, and it's really just peanut butter and jam. And it's great. It's slow burning, some good fats, and the sugars are coming from fruit, which is all natural. Kind of plays into that real food theme. But that's cool to hear you've rediscovered some snacks that are interesting for you as well.
Any last bits of wisdom, or
that's it? Happy to answer the questions. And
yes,
I mean, stoked to fuel riders. I mean, during this event, and then also during the training rides. That's where a lot of the miles happen as well. So hopefully we can help you all avoid the bonking.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I've taken a lot from this. I'm excited to look at my tire selection some more, and try to experiment for my big event, and also the nutrition bit. I think a lot of times I underfuel my workout because I get tired of the same old stuff, even though I try to vary it up myself. But sometimes I just don't have real food sitting around, and I don't have a good stock of attractive, tasteful bars and things like that, things to try. So I'm definitely going to take a look at the site and check it out for my own good. So thank you guys both for sharing some great products and your knowledge, which is really going to help everybody get through not just this event, but just training in general. That's where the most miles are put in. So having fun out there is kind of the key, and you're going to have fun if you're well fed and you're riding the right rubber.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Well, anybody else joining the call? Like I said, we recorded this, so this is going to go up on Marin County Bicycle Coalition's YouTube page, and I'll be sharing that through our social channels and on our Rafa SF Facebook. And anything else you want to say, Tom, before we sign off?
No, I think I'm good. Just, were there any questions from the audience, or now's your chance? But seeing no hands go up, yeah, no, thank you guys again for coming out and helping us get ready for these big rides. And yeah, right tires and right nutrition is key. So.
Absolutely. And I should get a quick plug. Tom is leading a ride with one of our ride leaders, Kemi, on Sunday, July 25th. Is that the right date?
Yep.
Yep. So I'll be putting the ride on our Facebook. It's in our app. I think Tom's sharing it with some of his riders as well.
Yeah, it's been put out to we have about 300 people signed up for the Dirt Fondo, and they all get the updates on these activities. And it starts at 9 a.m. at the Mill Valley Lumber Yard, which is right on Miller Avenue, right near downtown Mill Valley.
And I heard there's a rumor there's some post-ride snacks and refreshments.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
place
there'll be some cool beverages, and Dan maybe he'll give us some nice snacks for the end of the ride.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. I think everybody hopefully gets as much of it out of it as I did. And I'm going to go surf both your sites and figure out what I need next.
Nice. Cool. Well, thank you for having us. This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks
All right. Well, take care, everyone. And hopefully have a good ride.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks again.
Bye.